Cooper Talk.
Welcome to Cooper Talk. I'm your host, Steve Cooper, and remember, I'm only as hip as my guests. And I got to tell you, people, the gentleman on my show today has a legendary voice. Whether you know him from Deep Purple, Rainbow, his solo career, he just kicks ass. He has a new album coming out on October 28th called Beauty of the Beast, which is pretty killer. I was at the gym, I was on the treadmill, I was listening to the title track, and I hate the gym, but it kept me going. And my guest is the one, the only, Joe Lynn Turner. How you doing, Joe?
Good, Steve. Thank you very much. Yeah, that'll keep you going for sure.
And
that's kicking track.
It is. You know, it's funny. It's funny how music, when you listen to some music, it just gets into you. Because I'm someone who hates the gym. I hate, but my wife's like, you have to go, you have to stay in shape. And when you hear a good tune like yours, it's such a, the title track just rocks from the beginning. And you're like, all right, this next 5 minutes, I'll stay on here instead of, bailing out.
Yep. There's quite a few other tracks like that. So all you got to do is find them, put them in a play order, and you're going to be in the gym for an hour and a half. You'll be fine.
Now, how did the album come about? It's, because as someone like you has had such a legendary career, and you're a very accomplished singer, and you probably strive to work with people of your level. How do you put that together? I mean, it must be hard because one, let's say you're going to get a guitarist. They're thinking, he's played with Blackmore or Yngwie. They're probably like, oh shit, I hope I can hang. How did you put this album together? How did it start?
Well, some great things happen by accident. And I was playing for Peter Tacklin's brother's 50th birthday party. Peter had hired us, the Joe Lynn Turner band. And of course, Tommy, his brother, is a big fan. And at that party, I got to be very friendly with Peter. We saw that we had a lot in common. And so we started talking, and he said, I wonder what it would be like, if we kind of put something together. And I said, great idea. I've been wanting to do something like this for a long time. And he gave me one track. I went back home and wrote to it, sent him the vocal, and he loved it. And we just went from there. And from there means that I went to Sweden. We did another 2 tracks. And then the pandemic basically hit. So we had to write virtually, like a lot of people do. He would send me tracks. I would send him the vocals and lyrics on top of that. And little by little, we finished 11 tracks. And I'm very proud of this album, Belly of the Beast.
Now, when the pandemic hit, did that change some of your writing style? Something where, it was, people, you look back and people were scared shitless. I mean, we didn't know what was going on. I mean, you're a musician. All of a sudden you think, well, I may not be able to tour for a while, but then you're like, oh my God, it's a year. Did it influence your writing style, some of the pandemic? Did it sit there and did you sit there and really delve deeper?
Well, I think so. Absolutely. Because during the pandemic, it was abject fear in people. And there's a saying that the only real prison is fear. And as soon as you can get over fear, you're totally free. And I just saw this fear in people, and I saw the governments really asking some very ludicrous things for us to do that were taking our freedoms away. And I started to realize that this is going to go a lot further than what it is right now. And obviously, here we are. It has gone further. And I started to think that art is a reflection of reality, of the world we live in, and that any good artist has to reflect the reality that he lives in. So I just dug really deep and started to write songs of what I saw around me and what was happening for the most part. Also, not only outside of me, but inside of me, what was happening and how I was responding to all of this. So I'd have to say, yes, good question. It certainly did temper my writing because it wasn't, Moon, June, Spoon, all hearts and flowers. We're going through right now very dark days, in my opinion. The world is in chaos. And I think this album confronts it and expresses that because, again, somebody's got to say it. And I saw a lot of people shying away from that. And that's not what art is. No matter how difficult it may be to literally embrace it, you have to embrace what's happening, what the truth is. And only then, I think, can you surmount it, overcome it. And that's really what humanity has to do right now, is to overcome a lot of these shall we say, restrictions that are being imposed on us. I think now most people are starting to realize that some of them really didn't matter. All of the statistics that are coming out are saying that, hey, this was worse than had we not done it. You know, for example, Sweden with the lockdown, no lockdowns really, and they had a very low rate, you know, of transmission and everything. So I think with time, the truth comes out.
Now, did you write Rise Up during that time, or does that when the songs explain? Tell me more. I want to hear more about the songs Rise Up and also, of course, the title track. But where did Rise Up come from, and when did you decide to write that?
That's a good one for the treadmill, and also for driving. but yeah, Rise Up was is an anthem about freedom. It really is about. I guess let's go back to when Twisted Sister Dee Snider, good friend of mine, went to Congress and was fighting for the freedom of lyrics for rock and roll. And he said, we're not going to take it. Well, basically, that's the truth. We're not going to take it anymore. So I'm trying to incite the people to rise up. You got to fight to be free, because freedom is not free. My father was in the Second World War in Korea and a whole bunch of places. He was a staff sergeant, and he would tell me stories about this. And then I went to Iraq with the boys, a band called Big Noise, with some famous guys. And we put a band together to play for the troops. And I saw some really incredible things there, meaning bizarre and actually awful things I experienced. For example, one kid I was talking to, he was 19. And the next day I went to look for him at mess hall. And a friend of his said, no, he's not here. And I said, well, where is he? He said, he's not here. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, he was out on reconnaissance last night and a sniper got him. And it hit me. I mean, this kid was 19 and his life was over. And I started to look around at the major corporations that were there, like BlackRock and what was really happening, and how people were just making billions of dollars on this war, and they were sacrificing lives to do it. There were no weapons of mass destruction and so on and so forth, as we found out. So, I mean, it was an unjustified thing. So this opened up my perspective a lot. And again, I wanted to take Rise Up and lift your fist in the air and just say, we're gonna break down the walls. You know, we're gonna rise above the flames. We're gonna take back our freedom.
Now, Belly of the Beast. Tell me about that song.
Yeah.
That's a title track. And I always think, you know, I come from a generation of albums. You know, now people buy singles, but albums. And, you know, you always sit there, and when I was younger, you remember the title track. You remember looking at an album going, oh, you know, oh, the chronology is great, and look at the design. Now people don't give a shit. But tell me where this song came in. How do you decide, where did it come from? Then how did you decide it was going to be the title track?
Because it explains everything. Belly of the Beast is an old phrase. It appears in the Bible. It appeared. Anthrax had a song. Seagal had a movie. You know, there's a documentary out, a very good documentary on Belly of the Beast. It simply means the beast is rearing its ugly head again, and the beast is the system that we live in. It is the economic, governing, educational body that we exist in today. And now the belly of the beast means we are in so deep in this situation. And if we don't, quote unquote, wake up soon, I don't know what's going to happen to humanity. However, I do believe humanity will prevail, because we've always prevailed every time they've tried to do this since Roman days. The Romans tried it, many different aspects of history repeat this belly of the beast. So again, it's not a new phrase, but I had to pick it because this was the situation. This says it all. We are in the belly of the beast. There's no mercy. in the belly of the beast. And right now, that's what I'm trying to get my message across to people, to say, look, you've got to fight back. You've got to do this. The chorus says, heaven help us, because I also believe this is a spiritual war as much as it is a material war. As quotes in Revelations in the Bible, it says how dark against light, good against evil. This is since time immemorial. Man has always had the angel and devil on each shoulder, basically symbolic of good and bad, positive and negative aspects of physical reality and spiritual reality. So I believe that there's absolutely a demonic situation here that has encompassed some of the people, especially these leaders in the world, for power and for gain and for riches, and they want to make us into slaves. That's basically what they want to do. And from all indicative purposes, I see it every day. I see what's happening. And I don't just look at the mainstream news, because that's just a lot of propaganda. But I look at alternative news. I search for truth. And you know what they say about truth? It's you got your story, there's your story, my story, and the truth lies somewhere in the middle. So that's what I'm looking for. And I'm trying to enlighten people about this. Instead of just, I love you, you love me, kind of a rock song or whatever. It's not the time for that right now, Steve. Right now, we need action.
Now, do you think, looking back, when you were 20, 21, 22, 23, did you ever think that you'd be writing music like this? I mean, at that point in your life, you must say, you're making a statement now, which all music is art. But did you ever think you'd be, in your future, writing something that goes this deep and the world has changed?
Well, I think solo albums in my past have sprinkled this message. Babylon, Holy Man. I could go into Dark Days. I could go into Blood Money. There's a whole bunch of songs that I've written about the past that are pertinent to the situation, calling out the corporations, calling out the inhumanity to man. But as far as going this deep, I think that some people arrive as an artist. I don't think all people do. I think some people have a craft, a songwriting skill. But I think to arrive as an artist, you've really got to take a chance and go out on a limb, stick your neck out. And Bowie was like that, although I'm not comparing myself, believe me. What I'm trying to say is he was a changeling. He was always transitioning. He was transforming. And I think this was a natural transformation for me in every way, in physical attributes to the artistic design that I wanted this album to be, especially at this age. Yes.
Now, when did you start writing music? I want to talk about, I want to talk about your alopecia too, because you've come out and you've done that. And it's funny because I was born with a congenital cataract, so I grew up legally blind in one eye. So I got picked on occasionally as a kid, and I ended up becoming a stand-up comedian for many years. And I think that creativity was spurred by my sensitivity and wanting to be accepted. Now, for you, I heard, when you were younger, you were pushed around a little bit. Tell me about that, because I think that really delves into creative people. I just talked to a friend of mine who's on Better Call Saul, and he said at the end of the day, he's still that guy who just wants the attention and wants to be accepted. What made you decide?
Well, I think there's a certain amount of attention, but isn't it strange that those of us with an affliction want more attention? I mean, why? I use the phrase that I was hiding in plain sight. I mean, I was afraid to go out of the house. And my mom used to tell me, if you don't go out there and fight your own battles, then you're going to have to fight me. So I'd go out there and take the biggest kid I could find who was picking on me and beat the hell out of him. Really, I did. And it's strange, and I've always thought it strange, that I wanted to be on the stage where everyone can see me, wearing the hairpiece, the wig, call it what you want, was it was always an open secret. Okay, it was always an open secret. I wasn't trying to fool anybody, but this is what the uniform, we have a uniform of rock and roll. Since the Beatles came out, it was all about hair and the look and everything. And so for years, that's sufficed for me, that I could sort of hide in plain sight, with this look. But at the same time, I don't think the world was really accepting this look until, well, not so recently, but it became fashionable. Especially there you go, brother. We got
the Ball brothers.
That's right, man. And there's a special feeling about that, because you go into a nightclub and if there's a ball bouncer, he just lets you through.
I always joke. We have a bar, our secret society called the non-hair club for men, where we make fun of guys. Right. We make fun of guys who are doing a comb over because they don't have the balls to cut it off.
Right. And the fact of the matter is, Steve, that they're all going to end up like that, all of them, and they're going to have to make a choice one day whether they're going to shave the sides and go this way, or not at all, because I think you look better this way than you do with the sides. That's my personal point. So anyway, let me rewind a little bit. This started at 3 years old. This was very, very uncommon. Usually alopecia, quote unquote, victims, this happens around 30, 35 years old, if it's going to happen, whether it's a male or a female. So I was kind of a case study, and I'm in the medical books, actually, over at the Mayo Clinic, because a Dr. Visconti finally got a hold of me and made facial hair grow, body hair grow with steroids, things like this. And I only could do it for so long, and yet never on the top, because this autoimmune condition is really not that I don't have the follicles to grow hair, because they checked me and said they're there. It's just that your body goes into a shock. And what is that shock? Well, a lot of the doctors said that I was, quote unquote, vaccinated too early as a baby, when they were giving you polio and measles and chickenpox, and a cocktail just stunned my body, and my body went into a shock. And what it does is protect itself that way. So that's what an autoimmune system really is. And since then, I found wearing the hair was just a way to confine to the uniform. And now they asked me, why didn't I do it before? I said, because it's like no wine before it's time. You have to do it at the right moment. I've got a love and support system here with my wife and family. It's amazing. And my friends. And I believe that the world doesn't look at this as such a strange and odd type of look. It's very normal. In fact, my friend said I'm updated.
Well, yeah. Well, no, it's funny though, because I like when you're younger. Like for me, you had mentioned Bowie earlier. When I'm tired, my one eye's blue, my one eye's green. Well, when I saw Bowie with that, I said, "Oh, it's okay." Yeah. And then when I was in college, in high school, and Colin Hay became big. Colin Hay had a lazy eye, and I was like, "Oh, it's okay," and it became more accepted. And it's funny because baldness wasn't accepted. You look at old TV shows and movies, there's no bald guys in them. Even those period pieces when someone's, I lived in Hollywood for a long time, and you go up for an audition, and if it was for like a 50s show, like, you're bald. We can't use you because no one did it back then.
Right. It's true. It was non-fashionable. It was non-accepted in many ways. It almost said that you have no virility, which is far from the truth, because at 71 years old, I'm still virile. And it has nothing to do with any of that. Yul Brynner, I think, was the only one. And he shaved his head. He had to shave, and he looks better without it, I think. I've seen pictures of him recently. And yes, I would say it's all right as soon as I saw Yul Brynner and all that, but it still was not accepted in this profession, in this industry.
So
now it is.
How would you deal with that? Okay, so when did you decide you wanted to be a musician? Were you a little kid? Because you did more than become a musician. You've had a great career as a frontman, which I always think, how do you become a frontman. But when did you decide that you wanted to be? Was music instilled in you at a young age?
Yes, very. My parents were always playing music around the house, singing. My father was a great singer. He used to sing for the USO shows in the Army. Sang with Sinatra and a whole bunch of them, Marjorie Reynolds, everybody. And so he was always singing. My mom had a pretty good voice, you know. And we were playing everything from opera to the Sinatra standards and Vic Damone and you name it, you know. So there was always music. And I was given an accordion when I was, I think, 6 years old. It was a mini Galenti, okay, and for small hands. And I learned to play the accordion. And then I started to realize that this was a very unsexy instrument. And I asked my dad to get a guitar. Excuse me. So he came home with this guitar that had telephone wires on it. You know, it was awful. But I managed to make it in a Beatle book, and I managed to make the chords, right? And then as things progressed, you know, obviously I improved my instrument. But that's how it started. But I think from an early age, again, you talk about attention, it was always, you know, a ham in a way. I just felt it naturally. I always felt like I wanted to go forward and be the center of things. Now that's a risky business because a lot of slings and arrows will come at you that way. You know what I mean? You have no idea how dangerous it can really be to you personally and professionally. But I was a guitar player, singer, and I could always sort of hide behind the guitar in a band as well as sing. I sang by accident. We had a lead singer. He got drunk one night in a local band we were in, and somebody had to finish the set. So I just stood up to the mic. I knew the songs, and I started singing, and this crowd of people came up forward. And then I realized that I had a better voice than the singer. So we got rid of the sing.
You never knew you had such a great voice until that time. You had no idea, like you just because you have a great voice, but so it was just something that a fluke accident because the guy got drunk, and then next thing you come in and they hear your pipes and people go crazy.
Yeah, and then I started to build confidence that maybe I am a singer, and I was still playing guitar. And only when Blackmore called me, you know, he told me quite specifically, he says, you know, you're not going to be on guitar. And I said, no, I figured that with you. So he says, so you're going to have to, you know, and your hands get really big when you don't have the guitar in front of you singing. So you have to learn a whole new dimension to your stage presence and performance. And it took a while, but I got there. And now it seems natural, but I still have a great collection of vintage guitars that I used to go down to Red Tank to the guitar trader and collect and buy guitars. You know, so that's how it happened. Very quite, again, accidentally.
Now, what was it like when Blackmore called you? Because all of a sudden, you know, he's a great guitarist. Now you're going from a guy in New Jersey to a band and you end up getting huge. But tell me about that how he found out about you and what it was like starting to play with him. Because I've heard he's a little temperamental.
A little. Just a little. But some people call it that. Some people call it difficult, you know, whatever. But I always found a modicum of a measure of meeting of the minds because I think my psychology adapts me to that. But what happened was that I had a band called Fandango, and we had 4 albums on RCA Records, the Recording Cemetery of America, as we used to call it. And I was playing at a club in Long Island. I think it was called My Father's Place. And you might remember it, I don't know. Anyway, apparently he came to see me there and was hiding in the shadows because a few days after that, I got a phone call from his personal roadie and Barry Ambrosio, and he was asking me all kinds of questions, and I just said, who are you? I have no idea who you are. And then he said, well, you know, do you like Deep Purple? Do you like Rainbow? And I was like, who is this? You know, like, I'm going to hang up this phone. He said, no, don't hang up. I'm standing next to Richie Blackmore. He wants to talk to you. And I went, what kind of cheap joke, you know, is this? One of my friends is playing. And he we got on the phone. Hello, mate. You know, it was just that simple. And he asked me to come down and audition. So I went out to Psyops at Long Island, to the studio, and there he was sitting at the board with Roger Glover. And I got 5 minutes of conversation. I went into the studio, started singing, and I saw them nodding their head. I figured, okay, I was doing all right. And they came in and said, you got the gig.
Now, that changes your life. I mean, you know, all of a sudden you're going to be performing international and you're not making videos. As, you know, what does that do for an artist? Like, you know, you sit there and you go, all of a sudden you have this thing, Fandango, you have 4 albums, but all of a sudden you're going, you know, you're going up a level, a big level. What does that do? Does it affect you? Do you get nervous or what happens?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You know, I didn't understand, quite honestly, I didn't understand what level. I mean, Purple was one of my favorite bands, and I didn't understand what level Rainbow was at that time, because Fandango, we were more Eagles-oriented, you know, Poco, that type of thing. And because originally I grew up in a hard rock band called Ezra, and we did originals like Purple and Sabbath and so on. So I've got a background of that. But at that point in my life, I was into another form of music, because I'm always searching different forms of music. And what it did was it scared the hell out of you, because all of a sudden you realize, hey, my first gig is like in front of 20,000 people. And I'm really not that sort of conditioned for it yet. And you learn by trial by fire, I think it's called, right? You just, there you are, and you are thrown into it, man, and you've got to deliver. So for a while, it was trepidatious, to say the least, and with a few pointers from Blackmore, of course, you know, because he was almost fatherly in a way, you know, if you can believe that. He would sit me down and just say, well, do this, but don't do that, you know. This is what I'm looking for. I mean, be yourself, but do this, you know, and it helps a lot. So then you find yourself and you start to take on your own persona, and it becomes a really natural state of being, I think.
Now,
I love performing.
Now you love performing, and now all of a sudden you're with Rainbow and you start shooting videos, and you know, videos are everywhere. MTV changes people. Everyone who hadn't heard of band. I mean, I remember sitting there watching MTV and all these, and I've interviewed a lot of those artists since then. What was your experience on shooting videos? Because some people hate it because people don't understand it's a long day. It's not like you just sit there and go in. But what was your experience shooting the videos?
It is a long day. It's a long, stressful, nerve-damaging day. Well, first of all, when we started to do Stone Cold, we didn't really know what we were doing. Nobody did, because it was so new. So we just kind of felt our way through it and had to trust the cameraman and the producer and so on and so forth. I mean, we really didn't have any experience, and I can remember it was just at the very start of MTV. So there was no guidelines, you know, to go by. And eventually you find your way through it. You know, by Death Valley Driver on the second album, we had the whole storyline picked out. And the graveyard scene and, you know, the cars and the bike and the whole thing. So we developed. But we were never, I got to say, Rainbow was never into the video. We were into the play, the performance. That was more important to us. We were under contract to make a certain amount of videos. And we met our contract obligation. But we were never one for that. We were always just, let's get out on the road. And there's the least amount of video time we spend for us was the better. No. So some guys ham it up, you know, but we weren't like that.
Now, what was it like for you? Because then all of a sudden, you're the lead singer. More people are going to recognize you watching videos. I mean, your life has to change because you're already in a band, but then people just, and it's not like MTV only plays his videos once a day. They play the same video over and over. How did your life start changing? Because people must have said, "Oh my God, there's Joe Lynn Turner. Oh, we got to get an autograph." Or hey, we got to get part of his shirt. I mean, what is that like for you as someone who's you wanted attention, but you also have a shyness, because every performer, I think, has we're shy in the bottom of us. We want our privacy. What was it like for you, especially with you dealing with alopecia that the public didn't know?
Well, they eventually knew, but what it was I wrote a song called Fame and Fortune, and it really tells everything. Okay, it was on a Sunstorm album on Frontiers, and basically what it's saying is fame and fortune has made you change in their eyes, but fame and fortune has only brought me pain and sacrifice. And that's true. I think fame is a trap. Some people ask, what would you rather be? Would you rather be rich or famous? And I go, well, rich is good. You know, famous is a trap. Fame is a cage that sometimes you can't, you know, it sounds all good to everybody that you're famous and everybody knows who you are. But it can be very lonely, because you can't do the things you normally would do anymore. You can't just go out. You have to think ahead of time before you go out with maybe a bodyguard or something. You have to have somebody with you that's going to, if there's trouble, because a lot of people are not going to like you and a lot of people are going to like you, and you're going to have their girlfriends clawing all over you, and that can get you into a fight. And it's crazy. And I'm telling you, for example, I even had Richie and I both, we had to go to we were called to court because some girl claimed that I was the father, and the DNA test said I was not the father. You know, it's obvious. I don't even know this girl, and things like that happen to you. So it's not a bed of roses. I'm telling you, and it does change you, and you see another perspective of life. I think that's what it is. You see the perspective of what it can do, which is why I think now at this stage of the game, I'm still highly recognized, but I take it differently. I'm very respectful, and I'm happy that I'm still relevant and all that. But I try not to wave my own flag at all. You know, I'd rather sit in the back of the room, you know, out of sight.
Now, what was it like writing with Richie? Because you co-wrote with him. What is it writing? What is it like collaborating with someone who, you know, is a master of guitar? What was that like? It's like Stone Cold. Well, how did that happen?
Yeah. Okay. Great story. Good song to pick. Richie, at that point, Rainbow wanted to be more commercial. I mean, that's why I came in, because I had a more commercial voice. At least I have a commercial voice. If I want a commercial voice, I also have a metal voice. I also have a sweet voice. You know, I can adapt my voice to all kinds of different things, and that's a gift. But we wanted to be more commercial. We wanted to be in the top 10. All these bands, Journey, Foreigner, everybody. And we still wanted to keep an edge, hard rock edge. So we needed to walk the fine line between hard rock and a little bit of pop with integrity. And Richie came up with this moody piece that later became Stone Cold. And the way Stone Cold was written was I went down to Roger Glover's room one night in a hotel. We were on the road, and his eyes were glassy, like he was tearing. And I said, Raj, what the hell happened, man? He just got off the phone, and he said, she left me stone cold. And his wife had told him that it was over at the time. And I just went, you know, first of all, I wanted to console him, but the only way we're going to do that is go down and get drunk, which we did. But before that, I said, I'll be right back. I ran up to my room and I started writing lyrics to Stone Cold, if people can believe that. But there was a song there. And I kind of touched upon every man's Stone Cold. When Jackson Browne when he wrote for Every Man, for example, you should always write for every man. It's not just you, because that's self-indulgent. You should write what happens to you, but in perspective of the world. A lot of people have broken hearts. A lot of people have gone through what he went through and I went through. I went through my own breakup like that. So it wasn't unfamiliar to me, but that's what triggered Stone Cold. And then when we got into Liz studio, the police were there doing Ghost in the Machine. So we were kind of laying over for 2-3 days. And it was a fabulous experience to listen to some of the songs from that album by them. But what happened was that we got in the studio in Morin Heights, Canada, by Sons of Up. And there was a huge snowstorm, an ice storm. And there was 3 walls of glass, one of stone, it was like an octagon, and wood floor. And I could see the weather. And I'm singing Stone Cold, and that's where the line, "You put me in the deep freeze" came from. Just completely, an ad-lib. Just threw it out there. And it became one of the signature. Everybody always comes up to me, "Oh, you put me in the deep freeze." It's like, just stuff happens, So that's where it came from. So writing with Richie, though, to be more poignant, he'll come up with some music. He'll run it by me, and I'll say, this, not this part, not that part. And then I'll come back with some lyrics and melody, and then we'll put the whole thing together. That's how that happened.
When did you learn that you could write songs? I mean, did you write poems as a kid? It's not like, everyone, like, as I said, I did comedy. I can write jokes. I've written jokes for people.
Right.
It's easy for me. I can sit there. I listen to a song, and I've tried to write songs before. Some guys have tried to write funny songs, and I couldn't. I just, because they sucked. But how did you find, because it's not like a song is so much, it can be so much more than poetry. Like, I screw around, I write haikus just as a joke, and they're funny and they're stupid. Right. But when did you learn that you could write songs, and how do you develop that art form to back to where we said in the beginning, to back where you are now, writing so deep? But when did you start really writing?
Like sort of a sentimental kid, probably because of my condition. In a way, I was very sensitive. I think you were sensitive, which is why you could write jokes about it. It's the same thing, only opposite. You'd make jokes about people's impairments in order to cover up your own. It's kind of simple like that, and that's what we do. So I would always try to write beautiful poetry and give it to the girl in class and all that. And I had some success with that. So I saw that there was something there. But when I started to write songs, actual songs, it was pretty primitive at first. And then I progressed. But one thing that really helped was I went to university as an English literature major. And it's funny how that happened, too, because I didn't want to do anything but music at that point, at 18 years old in my life. And I went so that, because Vietnam was on at the time, a lot of my friends were coming back in body bags. And I didn't believe in that war. And we still don't believe in that war. But anyway, I don't believe in any war, really. War is when people run out of ideas. So what happened was I was a 2S, because my father said, "You're not running to Canada." I was a serviceman he had 8, 10 overseas stripes, and, he said, "So you're not going to run, so the only thing that you got left, pal," that's the way he talked to me, he said, "is go to college." And I said, "Yeah, okay, I'll sign up." So when I got to orientation, I'll never forget her, Professor Mollencock. It's been 40 years now, Mollencock. And she said to me, all of life is contained in literature. She says, so if you want to be creative, take these literature courses. And so I said, why not? I like poems, I like reading, I like this. Okay, I'll do it. And I learned so much craft. I know what iambic pentameter is. I know what onomatopoeia is. I know what rhyme. I have thesauruses, rhyming dictionaries. I still have a volume of them here in my office. Although you can go right online now and get them. But I still like the books. So I started to develop it, deeper and deeper and deeper, and started to use some of the insights that I gained from these amazing authors like Hemingway and Dostoevsky and Chekhov and people like that, and I would see the storyline develop and realize that you've got about 3.5 more minutes to develop this storyline. So you have to be picturesque and yet poignant at the same time. And that's what I tried to do. There's a song on this album called Fallen World, which is about the conditions we're living in now. And if you notice, it's complete rhyme. It's almost a rap. And it just describes almost everything and anything that's happening right now. And when I completed that, I'll never forget, my wife just went, "How the hell did you do that?" And I said, "It's really something that's built into me. It's a gift, but it's also a craft and a skill that you polish. You keep polishing. So I better know what I'm doing by 71.
Well, yeah. Well, also, okay. After Rainbow broke up, you did a solo album. So then you probably took more of the writing responsibilities. And so once you do a solo album, what made you go back to Deep Purple? And then, of course, you ended up solo again. What happened there?
Yeah, well, I had Malmsteen and different projects. I'm not opposed to a band. I'm not opposed to solo. They're different projects. When you do solo stuff, all the responsibility is on you, and it's quite, it can be a heavy load. So sometimes a band is easier because you can hide within the structure of the band a little bit, and say, well, it wasn't my fault, it was his fault. I've never done that, because anything that's my fault is my fault. I take full responsibility. However, it's easier. You can, like I said, hide within the band. The band gets the blame, not just an individual. Although I took a lot of crap from people saying, as soon as I joined, it became this and that. Well, yeah, we sold more records than any configuration of Rainbow. We did more chart successes than any configuration that Rainbow had. There's stats that prove it. And I did my job because that's what they wanted me to do. That's why people are surprised at Belly of the Beast, because it doesn't sound like the old Joe Lynn Turner. Not the writing, not the music, not the lyric content, nothing. It's completely something else. And they didn't realize that I could do that.
So, I was talking about when you left and you joined Deep Purple. Was it easy to leave after that because you knew you really wanted to concentrate, like you said about solo's pressure? But I think you seem like someone like me that you like that pressure. You want, you have the balls to take all the crap. So is that what happened? Yeah. You just said with Deep Purple, you said, you know what? I really just want to develop me as an artist.
Well, I knew what was going to happen with Purple anyway. And I also knew what they wanted at the time. Slaves and Masters, the record I did with Deep Purple, happens to be one of Richie's favorites, and it's one of mine. And 30 years later, people are starting to realize what a great album, pound for pound, it really is. Songwriting, production, performance, you name it, that record stands the test of time. And I knew that it was not going to be long before either Gillan came back or the band broke up, because remember, I'm there. I'm in the band. I know what's going on. And so I wasn't surprised when BMG gave them a couple of $1 million to reform with Gillan. And believe me, that's one of the main reasons. But I always felt honored, because otherwise they would have never had a Perfect Strangers, right? And to further that thought, Ian Pace wrote a wonderful part of an article where he said Joe was the link between keeping Purple alive, and we would have never gotten to any of the rest of Purple, even to this day, had he not been there, because Richie would have flew away. He either would have started something again with Joe, or he would have completely went on his own, or done something else. And I have to thank Ian Pacey for that, because he's absolutely right. I held the band together for over 2 years by being there and coming up with this product. Of course, you get the people who are always like, I want Gillan back, or I want Theo back, and I want this. because in my opinion, I think people are afraid of change. And yet change is the only thing you can be sure of in life. You read the I Ching, for example, great book, right? Legendary. Change. If you don't change, you die. You really do. You die inside. I mean, I'm sure you start to see yourself develop even at this, with your jokes are different now, and you develop them differently. You're changing. And that's what's necessary. Change is, shall we say, it's inevitable. You have to. You can't stay the same all the time. It's just death. So that was the story with Purple. I knew that was going to happen to them. And so with that, I just said, look, it was nice, great guys. Okay, I'm out of here. I've got other things to do. And I did them.
Now, you've done so much, and you've had such a long career. Do you remember the first time you heard yourself on the radio?
Yeah, that was crazy. Well, Fandango, really, because we were big in, like, Casper, Wyoming, big market. and we were driving through one night, and we didn't expect it. And we had the local rock station on, and there it was, Fandango coming at you, Last Kiss or whatever the hell, I think it was Last Kiss, the song. And we just cranked that radio up. We were just, stop the car, and we were just slapping each other five, and thinking we were just the cat's tits, it was unbelievable. So yeah, it's pretty freaky when you start to hear yourself back like that, and you realize, hey, this could turn into something.
Now, if people don't know this, and I looked on Wikipedia, it's not always right, but you've gotten a few really cool awards, like a cultural ambassador to Bulgaria, and you're the Golden Voice of Peru. How do they come about, and how do they make you feel? Because it's another country, and they're recognizing you, and it's just not like, hey, here, you get a gold ribbon for this. This is like, how does Bulgaria come about? Did you know you were big in Bulgaria, or what happened?
Well, I kind of did there, but because I had played with a Bulgarian act called Brazen Abbott. We did like 4 or 5 records, and they're brilliant, Nicola Kotzeff. And I played all over Bulgaria. And I was playing for municipal, not only just real shows, regular shows, but also municipal events and reaching the people, the common people. When I say common people, I don't mean like a rock audience. I mean like mothers and grandmothers would come out because it was like a day out. And it just started to spread, for example, in Bulgaria. And then, of course, a couple of years ago, I got asked to do X Factor because one of the contestants was doing Street of Dreams or Can't Let You Go, one of the Rainbow songs. And that just put it all over the edge, as far as my popularity there. I was just there. And over almost 20,000 people at this huge event. As far as the eye could see, it was just amazing, these people. And they love music. They have a true heart for music. And I love each and every one of them because they really feel it. They do. So, yeah, these awards, anyway. I had one in Italy, too. But I got tons of them all over the place. But I was never one for awards. It's just like, the Hall of Shame, I call it, not the Hall of Fame. I never wanted to, Hello? Hey now. Riot. Yeah, man. That's actually the new single that's coming out in a couple of days called Black Thumb. That's the start of it anyway. So you got a little touch of that. Anyway, I was talking about these awards. Rainbow was never an award type of band. We shunned it. We shunned awards. We shunned only the People's Choice. That's the only thing. The People's Choice was more important to us than anything. We didn't care about the gold records or any of that. It's nice, and of course you want them. And back in those days, they actually meant something. Now I think it's 100,000 to get a gold record. But then it had to be like, platinum. I think it was 500,000. So I learned through Blackmore a lot of this to just negate some of that pomp and circumstance, shall we say, and get down to the music. It's always about the music. That's the most important thing.
I got one more question. Let's take you a little. Well, I have two questions. One, what would you consider some of the highlights of your career looking back? It can be something small as a gig you may have played in Teaneck, or something, or a bar in Philly, but what are some of the highlights when you come from someone who has had a career? You're 71, you've been playing for a long time, you've played the world, you've been on TV, you've had, you have notoriety. What is a highlight for a guy like you? You're a lead singer. The lead singers, everyone's like the quarterback of a football team. It's like,
right.
But what are some of the highlights? What have been in your career?
Well, other than making Patty Iozia cry at a dance that I played at when I was 16, I sang Misery by the Beatles, and she started crying. Then I went out with her, so that was cool. But other than that moment, the biggest moment I had was when Rainbow sold out Madison Square Garden with Scorpions opening. And I used to go to Madison Square Garden, MSG, because you're from Jersey. And you used to see all the bands there, everybody. All of my heroes were there. You name it, I went to those shows. And that in the Fillmore East. So when we played that venue, although we played bigger, all that's not the important thing. The important thing was what it meant to me. And it was just phenomenal that I'm standing on that stage, and this is all for us. Part of what I was doing, and I'll never forget that moment, because that was the I have arrived moment, really, because playing in your own local area, tri-state area, at a venue like that, just blew me away. And I remember our managers telling us, you have to be calm, you have to just hold yourself, don't let things run away with you. Because he saw we were all really excited about this particular venue. And we did. We had a great show at the Garden. So I'd have to say that.
Well, the album comes out the 28th, which you should really check it out. Are you going to be touring with it?
I certainly plan to. Let's put it that way. I certainly plan to be touring in 23. Right now, the field is very, very crowded. And we're just hoping that it opens up a bit more and we can get out there and hook up with a tour, maybe with some other bigger bands, and show what we got. So, yes, the answer is simply yes.
Well, I want to thank you for coming on, Joe. People, go to the website, Joe Lynn Turner. I believe if you go on, you can get a signed copy of the album, which is great. And are you on Twitter, Joe?
Yeah, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, Facebook, all of that.
Look him up, people. Look up Joe. He's a legend. Go to my Facebook, Cooper Talk Radio. Follow me on Twitter at Cooper Talk, Instagram at Cooper Talk 1. Email me, cooper@coopertalk.net. You can find over 930 episodes at coopertalk.net. Remember, I'm Steve Cooper. I'm only as hip as my guests. Don't forget, drink your water, eat your vegetables, take your vitamins. I'll talk to you guys next time.